Hello and welcome to this Q&A video. With me is Simon Marshall of TBD Marketing. We're going to discuss making the most of LinkedIn and making it work. It's a subject of a full-day training session we're running next week, looking at this subject. So let's just dive straight in. Simon, how valuable is LinkedIn?
It's such a good question, John. On the recent stats that I've seen, something like 75% of B2B individuals are on LinkedIn as a platform now, right? But its use has transformed since the beginning of COVID, whereas previously only 3 million people were sharing an update on a weekly basis. That's now risen to 180 million people. Okay, so what was previously a platform that you could issue something interesting on and get several 10,000 views relatively easily, it's a lot harder to achieve that nowadays. And how useful is it is a really good question, and something that we're going to cover in quite a lot of depth in next week's training session. LinkedIn can be used as a communications tool, a marketing tool, a business development tool, a sales tool, a recruitment tool, and a CRM tool as well. So there aren't too many things in life that start out free that allow you to do all of those things in one place. And one of the things that we're going to cover in next week's session is going to be to really have people understand what they're doing and why they're doing what they're doing at various different stages, and using LinkedIn appropriately for each of those purposes.
Do you measure success? Is that something that people are good at doing, do you think?
LinkedIn makes it a bit harder than it needs to, John, right? I'm not gonna lie, right? So if you're a CMO watching this and you think, well, yeah, okay, well, can we get the stats? You can do that on a company page basis. And so for you guys or for my business, we can actually analyze, how many reads do we get, how much engagement was there, etc., etc. There's lessons to be learned from that, and it's something that's really important, those statistics. You can pay for some statistics service, and LinkedIn does have some preferred partners. There's one called Shield that provides a really good set of analytics, and then I spend my life looking at LinkedIn data. Why? Because I think if we John, I'm not naive enough to be able to tell people what's going to work for their audience. They'll know, and their audiences know, right? And it's different if I'm in Argentina or France. Different things will work with our audiences if I'm in capital markets or private client, right? So let's look at some data, see what you tried, and then do more of the things that work and then less of the things that didn't work, right? But sometimes some posts will have very few impressions, very few comments, and you'll get 2 or 3 leads off the back of it. Sometimes you'll have 25,000 impressions, no leads whatsoever as well. They're different things. One is marketing and the other one is communication. So we're going to explore that in that session. But yeah, if any good modern marketing strategy should have data threaded through and a bit of analysis as well.
So are law firms good at it, do you think?
Good at LinkedIn or good at the stats? I can answer both of those, really. LinkedIn, they're getting better, and it's amazing how far firms have come over the last few months. I'm thinking of some of the world's biggest firms here, whose performance a while ago was just shocking. They were releasing a post on the hour every hour, and was getting 200 impressions. It's just terrible stuff. And then suddenly now I see that same firm getting 20, 30,000 impressions on the same piece of work. Now that, as you know from your career, that rivals what a magazine can do in its initial kind of print reach. That's not small territory when we're influencing that amount of people. So look, they're getting better. They could do better. What's really interesting is that we've only got so much time each day, haven't we? Right, to look at this stuff, eyeball time. Now, if a general counsel or a deal doer or somebody, CFO, is going to instruct a law firm, has only got an hour at the beginning of the day and an hour at the end of the day, really, you're vying for attention with the BBC and the FT and the Guardian and Global Legal Post, right? And LinkedIn, all these things. So whatever you do with your shot, whatever you do with your 3 or 4 minutes of that, it better be to the best of your advantage. And you've really got to think in those terms of, if I grab their attention for 2 minutes here, what would I do with that attention? What's going to lure them in? And that's going to be a good headline. That's your background. But what's going to keep them looking at it? Well, it's going to be something that's of interest to them, written for them. And we're going to explore that in the session next week. But we can't be naive enough now to think that issuing 10,000 word articles on a Friday at 6 p.m. is going to be the right result necessarily. It's just, we've got to think a bit better about what we're doing. And so I think firms are getting better, but there's there's nothing wrong with getting to Everest Base Camp, John, but it's a long way to the summit from there. That's what I'd say.
Well, you wrote a piece that was published yesterday that looked at and resonated with me, that looked at how to persuade people to engage.
Yeah.
My theory, I've got a theory that there's some gold dust within law firms, partners who would be brilliant at it if only they did. And potentially there'll be a lot of people doing stuff that's not that effective, and other people who aren't doing anything. So I imagine that would be something that you would look at if you were overseeing your strategy.
It is, and for your readership and for the people that we're thinking about for this training session as well, right? So you're a CMO, you're in a really slightly odd position of having to have a company page,
yeah,
right, that we've got to do some stuff from, and company pages can't behave in a very social manner. And you can use some tips and tricks, it's getting better. But your real performers are going to be individuals. They're going to be your power users of LinkedIn. And they're the kind of people who would have been rainmakers in a different era, but they do it this way now. The big moment for me that changed it was when I saw, Nigel Boardman on the slopes of Davos, iPhone out here, giving a précis in a 3-minute video about what he'd said at Davos. What did that video really tell us? I'm at Davos and you're not at Davos. Here's my insights, so I'm ahead of you, whatever. John, when I looked at it, it had 26,500 views. This is Nigel Boardman. Now, that's 3 or 4 years ago. If Nigel Boardman can do that on LinkedIn in a timely fashion up there, no one else has got any excuses whatsoever, right? So I think we've got to, as CMOs, as managing partners, we've got to encourage those individuals who are really good at it and are behind our strategy. It's got to be those two things to really use it for the right reasons to benefit the firm.
For the benefit of those people who don't know who Nigel Boardman is, there might be a few. He is a top M&A partner at Slaughter & May, or was, I believe he was at the time. But yes, exactly. And Slaughter & May are very good at those kind of things. You would assume they weren't, but they are. And they sort of slightly do it effortlessly, I suppose. Okay, so we haven't got much more time. I'm going to ask you about your backdrop, because we talked about it before we had the conversation.
Yeah, this is huge as well, right? The thing that's changed over the last year on LinkedIn is the level of authenticity that we show up with. I used to use a virtual background in the background. I assume you're not using one today as well, John. That's
absolutely not. It's a genuine background.
So I've got my daughter's bedroom here, and what I found is that I closed more deals, did more business when I went to having the unicorn over my shoulder than when I didn't. And what we might think audiences do and what they actually do, we need to know the difference. Use the data, find out what actually happens, and that's something we're going to explore next week as well. We
could have talked about a lot more things, but another lesson of LinkedIn is that you need to have short videos. So I think we're under 10 minutes. Thank you very much, Simon. Look forward to welcoming delegates next Wednesday for the LinkedIn training session.
Thanks, John.